It's episode 199, by the way.
Welcome to the Reptile Gumbo Podcast, episode 199.
Jason wanted to do that.
I really did. I wanted to go, welcome.
Welcome.
I haven't practiced.
But yeah, hey, everybody. So I've got different co-hosts this week. Katie's off being the good parent. Robert's out again this week. And I've got, for anybody that actually listened to our other podcast, we had one. It was a short-lived podcast, which we need to bring back at some point. It was the Pint-Sized Reptile Podcast, and I have Jason Miloradovich and Travis Wyman here. How's it going, guys?
Doing well.
I realized that I didn't ask a question for our listeners this week, so hopefully we have folks in the chat, and we'll ask questions along the way. But let me do all my intro stuff, and then we can get.
I forgot to plug my laptop in. I'll be right
important.
back.
Real quick, Little Shop of Horrors is a small feeder and pet supply business based in San Antonio, and they regularly schedule feeder meetups around San Antonio as well as other neighboring towns and cities. They offer shipping on their feeder insects, isopods, and are working on starting shipping on their feeder rodents too. All feeders are raised on a nutritional diet that optimizes the health of the reptiles and the amphibians that consume them. Go see our buddy Lewis over at Lil's Shop of Horrors. Get your feeder insects, your rodents, anything else. Herb's Reptile Shows. Make sure I'm trying. Normally I have Katie here to help me with this part, but Herb's Reptile Shows. Our next reptile show is this weekend, actually, in Conroe, Texas, January 27th, 28th. Come on, see us. We will be there. Myself, Katie will be there. We're going to try and do some interviews at Conroe. It's also my birthday weekend. Then Corpus Christi, Texas is February 24th through February 25th. Baton Rouge, March 2nd, March 3rd. Bryan College Station is March 9th, March 10th. Rosenberg, Texas, which is southwest of Houston. That's our new home show. It's around Sugar Land area. Is March 16th, March 17th. Slidell, Louisiana is April 6th, April 7th. Austin, Texas is April 20th and April 21st. And West Monroe is May 4th, May 5th. So come out to the Herp shows. If you need LED UVB light bulbs or halogen heat bulbs or smart devices for your reptiles like cameras and sensors, go check our friends over at VivTech Products and use code GUMBO22 to save 15% on your purchase. Please go do that. If you haven't gotten bulbs from them yet, you're doing animal keeping wrong. Go do it. I know I'm missing somebody else. Oh, don't forget our giveaway this month. We are giving away, Katie made a snake print blanket. So you can win a free blanket. All you got to do is go over to our Facebook page. The post is pinned at the top. Tell us your favorite reptile print gift. It's been interesting because I was expecting like a bunch of like blankets and stuff like that. But we have people posting tattoos and stuff too. But go post what your favorite one is. And if you post a picture, you get a second entry in. End of the month, we'll pull for a blanket that Katie made. I think that's it. I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting something, but oh well. All right, Travis. Jason is still plugging in his computer apparently because
he's got to find a plug.
Computers need energy. So what you been up to?
I mean, same shit, different day.
Your volume is not on.
My volume is not on. How's my volume?
Oh, wait, it's me. Now you
Don't trip.
Go ahead.
Okay?
Or Jason. I always forget the slider for y'all's volume. My slider's good, but I forget.
So what you're telling me is I was fine. It's you that screwed up.
I'm still gonna blame you. It's fine.
Okay. I mean, you always do.
Yeah, it works. So, what you been up to?
I mean, same old. Work is typical craziness where things don't happen and then everything hits all at once. Snakes are being snakes. I got a couple of balls breeding. I'm fairly certain that my Candoya are pretty much in a constant state of orgy.
There you go.
Which, yeah, there you go. I don't know if having 3 female Solomon Island tree boas all go in 1 year is a there you go moment. I have a really bad feeling it's going to give me so much of a headache.
Dude, that's going to be a nightmare.
I know.
Those things are so freaking small.
Yeah.
And you could have like 60 of them if all 3 go.
If all 3 go, I could have like 60 of them. That's the nightmare part for me.
That one person a couple years ago got an import off a table at a show that was pregnant and had like 40 babies or 50 babies from one.
Yeah. and one of my girls.
That was a Solomon Island ground.
It
though.
was a ground.
Oh, okay.
But one of my tree boa girls is every inch of 5 feet, so it wouldn't surprise me if she drops a big litter.
Dude, that's gonna suck. That's gonna be so much frog scenting, lizard scenting, or whatever to try and get that shit going.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with these guys right here. Getting
that?
there, but those are the Black Russians from this year. I've got, well, I had 30 born, and I lost 2 during brumation, and so the 28 left, 20 are eating. So getting there.
And those go straight into brumation after being born, or do you?
I do. I know, like when I talk to Rufus, like he does, he tries to feed them first, and then the ones that don't take, he brumates. And I did do that in some of the earlier years, but I switched it over to brumate them just immediately, because then the whole litter just goes in together. It makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, because I know that's what people will do with rubbers. They brumate them immediately and then feed them afterwards.
I don't even try anymore. I've tried with rubbers, but the problem is if they start losing weight, then it's much harder on them for brumation. So it's better just to let them have that first shed and then put them in the fridge.
Just throw them in the freezer.
Don't do the freezer, guys. Don't do
Stick
that.
them in the freezer.
Yeah.
With the rubbers, they'll be fine. They'll just cruise around in the freezer. So,
Pretty much.
So Travis, you got ball pythons, whatever. But you got the Candoya. Anything else you got going this year?
I've been randomly pairing my kukri. I haven't seen them lock up, but since I'm not in the house 12 hours, 13 hours a day, it's entirely possible they're locking up while I'm not here.
You could always get you one of those cameras from VivTech Products to put in your cage, and you'll be able to see at any point if they're having sex.
I could do that, or I can just let it be a surprise to me.
That's no fun. And if anybody wants to get a camera, if you use code Gumbo22, you can save 15%. See what I did there? So you just tied it in right in.
While we're on the topic of VivTech, something I want to throw out. I know Arcadia just came out with this whole luminosity or whatever the hell they are fixtures that you can control with a fancy app that they have that let you dim them and light them and do all that crap. I just want to remind everybody that VivTech also has those, but they're individual outlets that you can plug your light into rather than the Arcadia, which the timer and everything is integrated into the light. So it allows you to retrofit your pre-existing light systems without costing an arm and a leg. Like if I went to all these new Arcadia systems, it would cost me over $2,000 to replace all of my lights. But if I go with VivTech, it would only cost me about $300.
Yes, that is much
by
better.
Using those little, smart outlets that VivTech offers. So something else to throw out there for people to keep in mind with their lighting and power needs from VivTech.
Plus, VivTech's LED bulbs are dimmable. So if you have a timer or something that wants to ramp up and ramp down, they work great for that as well.
Yeah. Do either of you have those yet?
Which one?
The dimmables?
I don't, because I bought all my bulbs before they were dimmable, and the problem is these damn things last so long. I haven't had to buy new ones yet.
Oh,
I know that some of mine are probably the dimmable model. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
Jason's got that cold air in Colorado. It keeps freezing and stuff.
Did it just flicker on you guys?
For a second.
Okay. No, I thought there was an option to buy non-dimmable or dimmable ones.
Their original bulbs were non-dimmable, but they're all dimmable now.
I have some of the dimmable ones, but I already bought a whole bunch of smart outlets forever ago when I started doing this on my own, which was before VivTech had released theirs, and I really don't feel like retrofitting all of that. So I don't use the dimming function on any of mine. But if I get, any new cages and stuff set up, they'll be getting those dimmable functions as I add new smart outlet systems for those cages.
Yeah, I've got old smart plugs that I had for forever, and that's what everything's on, off. And it's funny, I've got my fish tank. I bought a light for my fish tank, and it's got the whole thing built into one, and it actually has a ramp up and ramp down, and does a sunrise and a sunset, and like I've gotten to where that's really cool for that. I need to do that for my reptiles. So at some point, I'm gonna switch over and do dimmable. I think for my reptiles, it's got to be like crazy for these lizards all of a sudden. Like, hey, it's nighttime, it's daytime.
Think about snakes that can't blink.
Yeah. It's time to wake up. But all right, so Travis, you get kookaries. So if you get babies there, that's getting bit nonstop. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Is that the one that got you so good between the fingers?
Probably.
With their weird ass dagger teeth.
Yeah. They're bitey. They like to bite. I've got that colony of beaked snakes. I haven't seen anything from them, but again, I'm not here 12 hours a day, and so they could be doing anything that they want. The first time I got eggs from them, I never saw any locks or anything because they do their own thing mostly during the day. They're highly diurnal. So
you don't have any Calabar projects anymore.
No, I don't. You guys have the Calibars. I love the species, but I just went through some stuff in my head, and as much as I love them, I was losing the passion for them, and I wanted to be able to apply that passion somewhere else and not neglect those animals. So I sent them on to you guys.
And I was talking to you before we got on about the female. I'm trying to get her to eat, and she wouldn't eat for me. I just looked at her. I think I can see her right now. Looks like she's in shed. She hasn't eaten for me, and now she's in shed. So apparently she's growing without me feeding her. So now it's going to be even longer before she decides to eat for me.
It happens.
How are your...
Have you tried live or just frozen thawed?
Both. I've gotten one male to eat frozen, and I got one male to eat live, and then she doesn't want to eat anything, but she's now in shed. So I guess once she gets through this, we'll try live again and see what she wants. How are yours doing?
They're doing good. I've actually gone back and forth between live and frozen, and they've taken both.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, my rats are having babies like crazy right now, so I got a lot of extra pinkies and.
I'm not raising rats. That's gross.
Even my mice, so it's great for these sand boas. Mm-hmm.
So
I clean cages twice a week.
What are the Samboa stuff you have going on? Just the Russians, or?
Yeah, I own some Kenyans, not a lot still, and I've never paired them, so maybe I'll try that this year.
My problem is I own a lot and I forget to pair them. Like, I realize I have like 11 adult females in there, and I don't have anything paired right now, so I should probably get on that.
Yeah.
I collected all these females
I paired late,
at one point.
I feel like, compared to a lot of other people. Like, there's people having boa births and.
Yeah. I pair whenever. Like with the Samboas, though, it's always been a kind of as I feed males and they decide not to eat, then I put males with females. That's usually my measuring stick for when to put them together.
What time of year is that?
It just differs. I guess because I keep cages at a constant temperature and there's really no fluctuation. There's really no seasons in the room, and they just kind of it just all depends. And like I've got red tails together. Oh, common boas for the losers out there, but red tails together right now. And the males, I have two males, two different females, and they are going at it. Hopefully it takes, because I had a male with one female last year, and he's with her again this year, and I saw him try last year and nothing took. So I need them right now. I'm just trying to test out two females to see if they truly are het albino. So I was like, all right, we'll just put two sun glows out there, and we're gonna see if we can get some albinos. Because last year I tried to see if I had a het albino male, and surprise, he's het anery, and that's not what I wanted. But we'll see what happens. I like boas. You just put them together and they do all the work. Canal Side Exotics asked, ever breed my rainbow? I mean, I bred. I've still got babies left over from my original male and my female. I bred rainbows for, and that was easy for me too. I don't know. I don't do cycles. I don't do I just put shit together and then they have sex. I wish there was like a more scientific way to how I do it, and I could be like, hey, you should do this. I was like, I put them together and then they start having sex, and then there's babies at some point.
It's going to be different for everybody. I feel like mine, even if I do cycle mine, but even if I didn't try, they're going to do it naturally just because it gets so cold here. The room probably gets mid 80s in the summer. Yeah. And right now it's 75, 76.
Yeah. Mine's constantly air conditioned and nice and cold world. So I'm not going in there. Keep my house at a nice cozy 69, 68 degrees all year. So
why would you do a damn full thing like that?
because I'm fat and sweat a lot. And I don't understand people that heat their entire room. I would not keep snakes if I had to. If that was the only way to keep snakes, like, all right, the only way to do it is a room that's ambient temperature. Fuck it. I'm not having snakes, I guess. I'm done.
I mean, I kind of do that, not by design. It's just that with all of the lights and everything in the cages, the ambient heat in there tends to sit around 80 or so during the summer, a little cooler in the winter.
Like, I can't imagine somebody that keeps sand boas being able to do ambient. Like, my sand boa is like a hot spot of like 90. There's no way I'm walking into a room that's 90 degrees. And granted, you can't, it's just a hot spot. That's the other my problem is like doing ambient temperature. A snake has no way to like really cool down. If you do true, just heat the whole room to say 85. There's no get away from a hot spot if the whole room's 85. Plus I'd die in there.
Well, I think the argument with ambient is that the animals are less likely to need a hot spot because the ambient, once they reach that equilibrium with the ambient, it's the temperature that they would ideally be at by sitting in the hot spot and then leaving to get to. So while you keep your hot spot at 90 for your Kenyans, their ambient temperature, their ideal temperature might be something like 82.
Ugh.
So if your room is at that, then they wouldn't need a hot spot because they would just be able to continually maintain that level of temperature.
Yeah, I think if ambient was the only way to go, I'd end up being like a montane keeper of some sort of montane snake that is good at like 60. Rubbers. I'll just keep rubbers. That's all it is. I'll just keep rubber boas.
Yeah. The old world rat snakes would be good. Rhino rats, mandarin rats, bamboo rats.
Yeah, we had those
crested geckos. Lots and lots of crested geckos.
Oh, fuck that.
You could keep Euros, the leaf-tailed geckos.
See, it's funny. You say Euro and you mean Europlatus, and I think Euro and I think Euromastix.
Not Euromastics. Yeah, Europlatus.
Because that's completely different.
Yes. You keep Euromastix, you're going to have an ambient of like 150.
Yeah, I feel like with a Euromastix, it's like looking at when you go to a fast food place and they have the burgers underneath that red hot light and it's just keeping it hot. That's a Euromastix. It just wants to be in that. That's ridiculous. I'm always shocked at how hot they like it. And they'll just hang out there. It's fucking. I can't do that. It's a weird thing. I don't like the hot, but of course I like reptiles, and they like it when it's warmer. Like right now, it's cold. It gets cold here in the year. Well, not you're kind of cold, and definitely not. Fucking Jason's kind of cold. Screw that. But I like it cold, and then it's gonna get hot later in the year, and that's like animals are out, and I don't want to be outside in that. It's a catch-22. Oh, Canal-Side Exotic says that they heard people will keep their Brazilians together year-round and still produce. Yeah, I mean, people do that with a lot of snakes. I've done that before with Samboas. My original pair lived together for the longest time and like clockwork every year. Actually, and I did with my my Rosie boas like clockwork every year. They pump out babies. It's hard on some boas, and like for a Brazilian, I'd hate to keep them year-round and have her produce 2 years in a row. Because, I mean, it takes a lot out of them. I mean, they carry those babies for 5 to 6 months. So for half the year, they're gravid. Then they finally give birth, and you're trying to get them to put on weight in a couple of months before they start having sex again to have babies and carry them again for half a year. It just seems rough. What are your thoughts, Jason?
I mean, I think a lot of times if somebody is keeping them together, they probably are getting a little bit of a cycle just because everybody's house will change. If you got windows, you're getting a photo period change. But I do agree. I mean, if it's not putting on the right weight, you don't want to. It's hard to get them to bounce back from that if they have a litter and they come back too small. Yeah,
I think that's something that like people that breed ball pythons may not understand with boas is just how much goes into them carrying those. Because ball python, they're going to pump those eggs out in a month, and then you take care of them for 2 months. And yeah, you can get weight back on them. But
ball pythons eat very differently too. Like they can digest a lot faster and have meals. I mean, there's people that feed their ball pythons multiple times a week,
That's crazy.
And a rainbow boa, you certainly don't want to do that.
Meals.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like, so like my big boas, I definitely don't do back-to-back years. It just because if you've ever seen them, and you've seen it before, Jason, when you see like a red tail after they have babies, they look like a flattened sock. Like they can look
They're
pretty
deflated.
bad.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, there's the Calibars. I've kept the one pair housed together in quarantine, and I'll probably, once I move out of quarantine and get a bigger cage, I'll probably end up housing all of them together communally in a big. They're probably the only somewhat bioactive cage I actually own. But there's some things I keep communally. But again, especially when you're trying to breed stuff for certain traits, like Brazilians, I would just be breeding a Brazilian to Brazilian. Like I don't have any morphs. Some like you, Jason, who have morphs, so it's very specific on who goes to who. So,
yeah. Do you keep your rubber boas together?
Yeah, actually I do.
Okay.
Well, one of them lost her future mate last year, but yeah, the other two are housed together. I just separate them to feed them. You keep yours together?
See, and I never have. I know most people do keep them together, and I don't.
Huh. Yeah, no. Travis
Maybe it's something I should try.
Travis, you keep yours together, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even have to separate them to feed it.
I probably
I just
don't
find
have.
one. I give it its meal, and then I go and find the other one and give it its meal. Find the
It's
third
funny.
one and give it its meal.
The pair that I have together, they eat. They're not overly voracious. Like I'll separate them, I'll lay the food in there, and I come back a few hours and they've eaten it. The lone female I have will eat right off the tongs as much as I can pump into her. So they're so drastically different. And it's like there's no real keeping difference. They're on the bottom of a rack right next to each other, so they're the exact same temp. But man, the female, and it shows too in the size. I mean, she is much bigger. Oh, Canal Side says, I'm a gecko and lizard breeder. This is going to be their first season breeding snakes. Good luck. Good luck.
What kind of snakes?
I'm assuming Brazilians because they asked about them. I'm guessing.
I can't help you there. I mean, if it was balls, I'd say don't worry about it. Literally anybody can breed ball pythons.
I did it. So, I mean, it's definitely possible.
Case in point.
Yeah, what I always get crazy about is people that like, especially ball python people, when they talk about boas breeding, they always talk about how gross it is because they're all slimy. I'm like, that's my favorite thing. Is like walk in and there's a giant pile of slime. Like, I love that, and it's not gross. I've heard people say it smells. There's no smell to a fresh litter of boas being born. I mean, there's a little bit of an odor because everything has an odor, but
there's an odor, but it's definitely not a bad odor. I mean, I guess I find it exciting because I know there's babies when I smell that.
yeah, but it's not like it's not like they shit. Like it's definitely not a bad smell.
If you've been keeping snakes long enough that you've had a rodent get left behind,
Oh no,
nothing smells as bad as that. So I don't know what you're whining about. Yeah, a regurge. Okay, fine. Yeah.
A regurge.
A Nerodia that decides to musk on you. But like there are things that I am certain smell so much worse than a litter of boas.
Yeah. Canal Side said that they had Brazilians coming from the rescue, but they're not breeding those. But they are breeding Hypo Arizona Mountain Kings and Cow Kings. That'd be fun.
I don't know anything about Arizona Kings, but Cow Kings shouldn't be a problem at all.
Yeah, I don't do egg layers for the most part. I like letting the mom do all the work. So
you can do that with egg layers.
Yeah, but then yeah, that would scare me because then you've got to make sure that everything in that tub or cage is perfect, so that they have the ability to put it where they want to. And I guess for a lot of people, I don't know how well that would work, especially for cages where someone keeps stuff on like straight paper. Like I don't know if you could do maternal incubation on.
You can do it.
Can you?
I've known some people who've done it.
I will pass.
Travis, what do you maternally incubate anything?
Not now. I have my first 3 years I did because I was only doing like 1 or 2 clutches. I let the mothers do MI.
Was that all with ball pythons?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, and then like with king snakes, I imagine they're just going to lay them and go. So there's no maternal incubation there.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys, I thought about this question earlier. If you had to get rid of all your snakes, every snake, and you could only keep one species to keep, breed, do whatever, what is it? Travis, you go first. If you only have one species.
God damn.
And you can have one species. I know for you, morphs and all that. I mean, ball python side is morphs and all, but
see, quite frankly, no. If I could only have one species, it wouldn't be ball pythons.
I know.
'Cause I don't. I mean, I'm not going to say I don't like morphs because I have a bunch of morphs, but I like morphs just for my own edification and doing my own thing with them. I'm not out there, chasing everybody's favorite things, doing stuff like that. I'm making things that I want to see for myself, and I don't care whether or not other people like them. So if it was just for me, I probably wouldn't do that because first and foremost, I got into keeping snakes for because I could build, little terrariums and stuff for them. So I would want to be able to maintain that side of it, the more naturalistic type of thing. If I could only have one, I would probably, as much as I love my rubbers, I would probably go with Alterna.
Really? How much Alterna do you have right now?
I've only got one now. I mean, I haven't been like a huge collector of them, but Alterna, when I finally realized, hey, I'm an adult and I can do what I want and get the things that I want, Alterna were one of those things, along with the rubber boa that just from the Audubon guide had always been on my list of things I wanted to keep. And that was the first of my grail species, as I call them, that I picked up. I had a female that she 6 or 7 years ago, she got a kidney tumor. My vet friend removed it, and I got her back. She lived great. And then this year when she came out of brumation, for the first time ever, the male was showing interest in her, and I was kind of excited about that. But then as I was looking at them one day, I realized that her back end was swelling strangely, and she had developed a tumor on her one remaining kidney. And so then I had to go through kind of a mental struggle of, do I break them up now, or do I try and let them go and see if I can get a clutch out of her before the tumor takes her? And much to my chagrin and a little bit kicking myself still, the tumor grew so much faster than I anticipated it. She got egg bound, and I lost her.
It sucks.
So, I mean, I was going to lose her regardless. And after really thinking it through and talking with a whole bunch of people, going for it just at the time seemed right, because if I could get a clutch out of her and get babies, then I would have legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a piece of her left.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like I said, the tumor it grew so fast, and
that sucks.
Yeah.
How old was she?
When she got her in 06. So
yeah, I've got one corn snake left from my original corn snakes in 2005, and I'm like, he's not going to be around much longer. He's gotten to the point where like he's blind, and so when he goes to eat, he just randomly strikes stuff, and I'm like, it's not going to be much longer.
That was my corn snake. I got him when I was 14, and he passed 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So
I've got some rosies that are old enough to drink now.
It's my chondro. My chondro girl was born in 2003, so she's old enough to drink.
In fact, my they're in the fridge over there. They're not in that cage right now, but the rubber boas that live over there they were born in 1994, so they're almost 30.
My rainbow,
Damn.
I got my female rainbow that I still have. I think it was 2006 in Daytona, and she was a full-grown female then, so she's probably 3-4 then, so she's probably 2003, 2002. She's still kicking, so
nice.
But yeah, so Travis, if you were to do Alterna, are you one of those that would get locale crazy about them, or?
Maybe a little bit, only in as much as my girl and my boy were both black gap specimens. I really like the look of the black gaps and that Western stuff. So I would probably just lean into the Western locales.
So would you lean into them based on locale? But what if someone found you one that wasn't that locale but gave you the same look you wanted? Would you go for a look?
I would keep it. I mean, I would probably, keep it separate from breeding just because I know the craze for bloodlines. And while I'm not against generic Alterna for people that aren't just going to really get into it.
Way to sound all snooty there, Travis.
Well, there's a little
all
bit
of you generic Alterna keepers. He doesn't have time for you.
No, I'm not saying I don't have. I appreciate that some people out there just want to have an Alterna that looks really good and they don't care about lineage, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I prefer the locale stuff just because that's one of the quirks for me with them is how each locale is really unique and different, and so I'd want to maintain those unique and different natures to them. Also, with the generic ones, there is known hybrid blood in a lot of those, which is why every 3 or 4 or 5 years, somebody pops out an albino Alterna, and it's one of these bastard back crosses, originally to a Ruthveni to get the albino gene into it, and then they just keep breeding those back into pure Alterna to make them look really Alterna.
So you did it again, Travis.
Explain year and year and year after year that no, you did not just suddenly find a magic albino Alterna.
It's worth $30,000, and you shut your mouth, Travis. They're amazing. You also did it again. You use another term that I view differently. You said Ruthveni, and when I use it, I mean Louisiana pine snakes. And
No.
It's not the same when you use it. That's the problem with species, and people are like, let's just keep using the same fucking species name again and again.
Lampropeltis.
Yes, I was Pitiophis Ruthveni. You're Lampropeltis Ruthveni. Mine is cooler.
I think that is the problem with people crossing stuff is you can get really neat hybrids, but when those hets get back out there and people aren't honest about what they are, they end up in people's hands that think they have something pure, and then it does create problems like that.
Well, especially with king snakes. So it's like was it king snakes and some of the milk snakes, or king snakes and the corn snakes, right? They mix all those things together, and you can get some pretty cool looking hybrids. And somebody will, like, I've seen some of those king snake, corn snake crosses that if the regular person doesn't know, they'll think, oh, that's an amazing corn snake cross. And you're like, but it's not. It's, or what is it? Is it Imperial Kings or whatever, where it's like
Imperial Kings, Jungle Kings.
Yeah.
Calcorns. I mean, yeah, you hear all kinds of things.
Even the locality boas run into that. I mean, I've seen a lot of supposedly pure Hog Island boas that are clearly crossed, people just don't know better.
Yeah.
Because that's what they bought it as,
And that's the problem with the Alterna, especially with the Alterna. Those initial hybrids, they were kind of made on the sly because somebody was trying to go for the glory. And then it came out that that's what they had done. And so a lot of people were upset about that because
that's even worse. Just
they
be
had
honest
been
about what
lying.
you're working with.
So you brought up Hog Island a second ago, Jason. This is one thing I've seen people, when they talk about Hog Island, especially like videos online and stuff, they always call Hog Islands dwarf boas. And I get that they're not like 9 foot, 10 foot boas, and they're not BC, I guess old BCC, but not boa constrictor. They're both, but I don't view a Hog Island as a dwarf boa the same way I would do some of the Central American ones that are dwarf boas, that really like, look, this big female is 4 foot like that. I've seen big Hog Islands. Where do you sit on it being a dwarf boa? It's smaller but I feel like it's still a bigger boa.
I mean, I like Vin Russo kind of called them mid dwarf boas. And that makes a lot of sense to me because they are snakes that'll breed between 4 and 5 feet for females, which is a lot smaller than your mainland. A lot of your mainland boas are going to be, South American boas and stuff anyway. But I think that is kind of fitting because there is stuff that's a lot smaller. And it's interesting that Hog Islands will get big if they're fed to be big, where some of the other boas just really kind of don't do that.
Yeah, because I mean, I've seen 6-foot Hog Island females, like big, thick 6-foot Hog Island females.
Mm-hmm.
And so that to me, that doesn't match dwarf when someone's thinking dwarf boa, like some of those smaller ones. Like, what's the, I can't remember the mount. What's the mountains, the cloud ones or whatever?
Tamaulipas.
Yeah.
Hot forest boas, and then the Tarahumara on the, there's the Sigma. So they're from the western side of Mexico, but they're also very small.
But I like, that's another one when we talk hybrids, right? Hog Islands, they call them sunsets or whatever when they mix them with hybrid. Like there's very hard to find true Hog Islands out there because a lot of people had a red tail, like Colombian, and then they had a Hog Island, and they're like, all right, we'll just breed it together, and it looks close enough to one or the other to be able to call it that.
Well, and then they breed it back into one or the other. Like, so if you take one of those hybrids, so the sunsets are a good example. Do you remember in the beginning, the sunset was the super hypo version only? The other ones were just called hypo hogs.
Yes.
And that, for some reason, that changed to where if it had any of the Central American hypo in it, it was all of a sudden sunset. Anyway, it's kind of off topic, but the normal looking ones from those pairings, if they did if it was just a hypo, and so you got some that were basically half Colombian, half Hog Island, if you bred that back to a Hog Island, it looked a lot like a Hog Island. And then those were getting pushed out there because they weren't they weren't worth as much basically as was what the hypo hogs would have been.
Well, in hogs, it's a weird thing because they're naturally hypo. So like, that's one of the snakes. Like, it's a lot like the Brazilians, where if a friend comes over to see one, you're like, oh, it's really pretty, I want to show it to you, and then you show it to him, like, oh, it looks like shit right now.
It's in its dark phase, yeah.
Come back tomorrow.
The Pearl Islands that I have are also naturally hypomelanistic. They're all super hypos on the island, but same thing. They're really variable. They get lights and darks. They're a cool snake.
I would like to get a hypo, or get a hog again. It's been a long time since I've had one, but I've moved so much towards some of the stuff I'm doing in my other boas. I just don't have the space for another boa. That's the only problem. Like, so we'll go with Jason. I'll get to this in a second, but we'll go with Jason. Same thing that I asked Travis. If you had to get rid of all your snakes, what is one species? You only one species. What are you keeping?
That's a tough one. Those rubber boas I mentioned they're very sentimental, that particular pair to me. But if I was down to one species, it would probably have to be Brazilian rainbows. I would say, was really what sparked my interest in the beginning. My first boa was just a common boa, or a not true red tail. I bought it from the pet store in it was either late 95 or early 1996. But in doing research on that to prove to my parents that I would be able to take care of a snake, I found I was doing it all at the library, but I came across a book and it had a picture of a Brazilian rainbow, and I was blown away. I'd never seen anything like it. And so once I got that first boa established, I bought four rainbows actually, within that next year.
Jeez.
Do you remember Reptiles used to have the classifieds ads in the back?
Yes.
And there was Peter Cal was advertising rainbow boas, and so I borrowed my mom's credit card, and I was like, I promise I'll pay you back.
But that's when they were still affordable. Like, you can't go do that's when they were $125 or less.
Well, and that was also driving to the airport and picking them up at Delta Dash. You guys remember doing that?
Man,
it was brutal because the planes were always late, and it'd always be a late night flight. And then I'd end up sitting there till 1 or 2 in the morning. And yeah, that FedEx is so much easier.
It's what's so funny now is you'll see new people don't trust someone if they won't ship with this or that, which I agree with the way shipping is now. You should definitely trust somebody who ships through one of the official shippers. But I'm like, all right, well, if you were in the hobby in the early 2000s or 90s or earlier, so many things got shipped as just random shit, not snakes. I totally shipped a gecko from Alabama to Texas in just a box through overnight FedEx or UPS or something like that.
UPS was first. I was certified to ship through them, and then I got certified to ship through FedEx when UPS quit doing snakes. And then once Ship Your Reptiles started, they were I could get a way better deal using them. So I've been with them since 2009.
Yeah. And I was not certified. I was just shipping a lizard through the mail. And
the first hypo boa that I bought, do you remember how expensive hypos were?
Yes.
Back in the day. And I bought
then they crashed
very quickly. Yeah. After I bought the first one and before I bred her. But hey, Link.
Hey, Dad.
But anyway, the guy, made him a deal that if he'd cover shipping, I'd pay what he was asking for it. And it was almost a full grown adult. And then he flipped out on how expensive it was going to be to overnight it. So the dude literally just put it in a box with duct tape. There was no bedding, there was no styrofoam, and it was rough. It was really weird opening that one up.
I've said this one before. My first adult pair of boas I got in 2006 or 7 that I found out later on, I believe came from Rob Stone, got shipped in 2 cardboard boxes taped together so it would hold both of them, and then it was labeled frogs. But I mean, it was a 6-foot female and a 5-foot male. This thing weighed 30 pounds, labeled frogs, and came overnight.
600-700 frogs in there.
Yeah, I was like, that's hilarious. Like, people would kill you. Like, don't you ever buy from someone like that would do that? But I'm like, that's how it was. It just, you had to get them from point A to point B.
It would just say collectibles or books or something on it.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my earliest snakes that I got, it wasn't in like a pad, like one of those 8.5 by 11 by like 2-inch thick FedEx boxes. It was just in one of those in a pillowcase.
Nice.
And it got delivered to the front office where I was working, and it literally said on there, Python. And the receptionist was not happy about a boxed python sitting on the desk.
I've had some rough ones. I had one that it was delivered to my work, but it happened there was a surprise snowstorm. And I had the door. It was early when they got there, but I had the door unlocked and everything, and they just dropped the box out in the snow.
Oh shit!
Luckily, I was checking, so I found it right away. But yeah, I was a little surprised because that one actually did. I think it said live harmless reptiles, perishable with the red arrows. Remember those boxes?
Oh yeah. My last rubbers came wrapped inside of they were inside of a bag inside of a like fish tank filter box, just taped together, and it was like the outside it was a filter box with a label stuck to it, and
clearly not somebody who ships a lot.
No, not at all. They came in alive. It worked out.
I don't want any delays, anything that I can prevent, so it's going to look as professional as possible when I do mine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I've got the whole kit from Reptiles to You, where they give me the boxes and all the pieces of styrofoam. All the boxes are labeled, and then you can go to their website and print out the labels. Which now that I do like stickers and having sticker paper, God, it's so much easier. I just print the labels on sticker paper and just cut it and stick the whole thing. It's just one giant sticker.
That makes sense. Did you guys ever get certified through FedEx to do your own?
No.
I was actually working through the certification process right when SYR fired up, and I remember that as I was like, I like contacted FedEx to set up everything so that I could get certified. And the operator that I was talking to said, look, there's a reptile company that's setting up to do this as like a second shipper for everybody, and you just register with them. You might want to wait a couple of months. So because I was told that, I was like, okay, well then I'll just wait until I hear about this officially launched. And so
yeah, you basically had to set up a box like you were shipping something, so it had to have the deli cup and the padding. Yeah,
and then you have to send it to them, and they check it and test it and send it back to you.
Yeah, it was pretty easy, all said. But like I said, it just wasn't. I didn't have any kind of volume to get a discount, and so by getting on to Ship Your Reptiles with their discount, I think I was automatically saving. Well, at that time it was probably $10 or $15, but that's back when you can ship a box for $40.
You can ship a box across town for $40 sometimes.
I don't even know about that. It's nuts how expensive it gets. I'll get these quotes and it's like, $87 to ship.
Yeah, I shipped a snake in state and it cost me $67.
Wow.
Jesus. Yeah, that's people nowadays when they want to order something online, they're like, we do free shipping? No. I can't.
That's a big hit, especially if it's not a real expensive snake. I mean, I can see if it's a $2,000-$3,000 snake, but if you're shipping $150 snake, you have zero profit left because you've also fed that 6-8 times.
Yeah. I had somebody last week ask me if I would send. I have a Mojave. I think it's Mojave genetic stripe listed for $58, and they wanted to know if I would send it for $58 shipped. And I was like, dude, at that point, I'm literally paying you to take the snake from me.
It's negative profit.
Yeah.
Jesus. That is crazy.
You get some of the weirdest people messaging you, though. You get the
do.
strangest requests, like way
Dude,
out of left field.
I got so angry last week. Like two things back to back. One, I told you I tried morph market auctions, right? Which I think it's a good idea. I've seen some things on there. It's cool. But I tried the morph market auctions, and then someone won. And then, of course, they didn't answer the next day or the next day. Like 3 days later, they go, oh, sorry, I had a death in the family, yada, yada, yada. And look, they may have. But I've been in the hobby long enough just to not believe somebody when they say that shit. And it's really, oh, I didn't expect to actually win. I don't have the money. And so luckily, morph market's like, our bad. We'll go ahead and open it back up so you can post it again. And I decided to post a more expensive one. I tried it. It didn't meet the minimum that I had set for it. It's fine. I kind of didn't expect it to, but I wanted to try anyways. But then I get a message from, I guess, whoever was the last bidder. And it stopped bidding at $250, and I had the price set higher than that. And they're like, hey, did I win? I was like, well, I didn't meet the minimum. Oh, will you take $230 for it? Dude, the minimum bid was $250, and that wasn't enough to get it. Like, I'm not taking $230 for it. What? That doesn't make sense at all. And then I get a message like shortly after from someone else about another one of my snakes. Like, hey, I want to buy this. Can you send me more pictures? Sure. Here's 3 pictures of it. Awesome. I'll get back to you on Monday. And then they basically they're not buying it.
Right? Yeah.
I'm like, don't message me if you're gonna message me, at least be upfront. Be like, look, I don't know if I'm gonna get it right now, but can you do this? Because then I can go yes, no, maybe, and I know. But don't message me with hey, I'm gonna buy this. Let me get some pictures.
Well, and I understand wanting to get a deal or asking for a deal. I mean, I've done that. I try not to be absurd about it because I've had some really low ball that are just offensive, and I've never gone that route. But I would say, like the 3 of us, we all have jobs. This is a hobby for us. I know with myself, what I sell goes back into buying bedding and food and everything.
Yep.
One of the things that frustrates me the most is when you have this whole chain of talking with somebody and then they just disappear. Like, I mean, for anybody listening, at least respond and say, hey, I decided to go elsewhere, or I decided not to buy it. Just don't leave us hanging like that.
Or if that same person goes elsewhere and then comes to you to ask you questions about the animal they bought from somebody else.
Yes, that happens a lot. And yeah. Lost my train of thought. What was I going to say there? Yeah, that's a bad one.
I know that's a recent one. So I was like, let's go ahead and bring that up.
Yeah. What? I mean, I do like talking snakes, and I do, if somebody, even if it didn't come for me, I want them to have the information so that it's lives a long, healthy life. It does frustrate me a little bit that the sellers who are selling these at these shows aren't telling people any of this stuff. Not giving people a card or their name, and just, I mean, especially something like a rainbow boa that does have a little different needs.
Yeah.
Like educate the people that are buying it.
Well, that was frustrating because the conversation started with
who they're buying from.
Yeah.
They come to you and they see that you've got them, and then they ask you all the questions, and you're willing to talk to them. Yeah. But they want the one that the flipper table has for $200 cheaper than you. They know that guy's not going to talk to them because that guy's just a flipper, and that guy doesn't care. All he cares about is moving it off of his table and getting his $200.
That's the problem. Is everybody? Look, I get it. Economy sucks right now. It's hard to spend money on certain things, and everybody wants to buy the cheapest version of something. But sometimes you pay extra for not only the animal being higher quality and coming from the breeder knows who the parents works, they have them, but you also pay extra for the breeder. Like, it's a little extra so that you know that that's the person you can always go to and they're going to help you.
Yeah, the service that comes with it, and this being selectively bred. I mean, the stuff on a flipper's table, that might be a farmed animal that you're going to struggle with. Where, I've got the animals I'm currently breeding. A lot of those are descendants of those first ones that I got in 1996. So there's a lot of selective effort that's gone into that, over this time.
Yeah. So I made both of y'all answer the question of what you would go down to. So I'll go ahead and let's see if I can figure out. It's a hard question. I thought about it the other day. I was like, oh man, I can ask them that, and then I've got to answer it. And it's much harder for me to figure out what one species I would do.
Ball pythons.
Right? Yep, that's it. Ball pythons. Fucking, you got it.
Do it.
I
know you love
I've got tons of Samboas, and they're cool, and I really like them. But I don't think they'd be cool enough for me to be the only species I had if I had to. Like, I like them because size-wise, they're great. And I can do some of the genetic stuff with them. And I like the idea of getting all the different types of Samboas and how different they are. So I'm not able to do that if I'm only getting one species. So it's probably not Samboas. Brazilian boas are where I started. I like Brazilian boas. I don't know if it's enough for me to keep one species of them. I think they're cool, but that's I don't think that's for me. I almost wanted to say rubber boas because that's always been a dream of mine to get them, and I have them now, and I love them, and I think I would love to have like 20 rubber boas in that room right now. But I think if I'm going to be honest with something that would keep my attention long term in one species, I'm probably going boas, like Colombian boas. Just I'm calling them red tails, fuck everybody else. But I can do all the genetics with them. I enjoy the variety. That's why I like the jungle gene and the hypo gene. Mixing it with albino because you get so many different things coming out in the offspring. So that's always fun every time they have babies. Like, look, when my rainbow has babies, they're going to come out looking like Brazilian rainbow boas. That's it, right? If my rubber boas have babies, they're going to come out looking like rubber boas, and that's cool for folks. But I like the genetics part and all that. So I'd probably go Colombian red tails.
And that's opening you up to all morphs then.
Yes, still it's one species, and I can get all the different colors. And I say that, but I'd only do like 5 morphs. I just mixed those 5 more. Like I like hypo, I like jungle, I like motley, albino for sure, and I've kind of grown to really like. I don't have it because I can't afford it, but I want labyrinth. I think that's a really cool.
It's a cool
gene,
one.
And I don't know why it's so expensive because it's an incomplete dominant gene. So I don't understand why it's still fucking expensive, but it is, and I can't afford it.
Look at IMG. I never thought that would maintain the high prices that it is.
Still kicking yourself on that one?
I am, yeah, because I literally, when I was offered some really early on, that I said, just following the hypo, it's not going to last, So I didn't do it. And, yeah, I
will say IMG I do like when mixed with albino. Like I like the albino hypo IMGs because they just come out like so bright red when the way that gene sets in.
Yeah,
it's so weird to say I like a gene called increased melanin gene when I mix it with things that gets rid of melanin. But they look so cool. They become this kind of solid red color.
And you typically don't go for dark snakes.
I don't.
With IMG,
go ahead, Travis.
I had this guy that I chat with bring this to me, and since I know nothing about boas, I wasn't able to give him any answers. He told me that the belief is that IMG is just a simple dominant gene and no super has been made. But he showed me a clutch of IMG by IMG, and there's a pretty distinct phenotypic difference from what I can see in that clutch. So
interesting. I'd never heard that.
I don't know. I mean, they grow up to be solid black, so I guess it's kind of hard to tell in adults because it's either a black snake or a black snake.
Yeah, because it's eventually going to overpower whatever's with it. I think.
Yeah, and maybe that's it. Is just they're only looking at the adults. But I mean, like I said, the clutch that he sent me, you could see that there were 2 different phenotypes.
You should send me that picture if you still have it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it in my. Here we go.
I'm really getting excited about locality boas too. Over the last handful of years, like you were talking about earlier. It's even some of them that don't look that much different, but some of them are pretty drastic. It's kind of fun.
My problem is I'm not a locality person, so I get it for someone that likes locality stuff and then likes boas. It's definitely something cool to do. I'm trying to pull up this picture of this boa.
But even though like rubber boas all look the same, and that's kind of my new direction I want to take is finding very locality specific stuff.
Oh, that is a very dark litter of boas.
That's awesome.
But you can see that there's clear phenotypic difference there.
But that's also got motley, right? And that's going to add some dark to it.
He said there was no motley in it.
Really? Because that looks like motley on the tail here.
Yeah,
and these circles down the back.
I think the only other thing he said was in there was, I can't find my damn.
And this striped tail, that's got to be motley. He may not think it's that. That's got to be motley.
I see a handful of them that look like motleys to me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, in this left tub, that solid stripe down the tail with the blocks before it.
He said that there's also RLT. Don't even ask me.
Roswell ladder tail.
Yeah. That could be Roswell ladder tail. It kind of has that same look. I don't know. They're very dark though. That's gonna make some awesome, like extremely black adults.
Yeah, but like I said, you can see that there's the dark ones, but then there's also like the dark one, like the super dark ones.
Yeah.
That actually brings up something. I want to show you guys this boa real quick. After he bites me a bunch of times, or she. You said something about rainbows all coming out looking the same. Look how dark this one came out.
Oh yeah. Well, and they within a litter you get the reds and the oranges.
I've never had one this dark. I've had a dark one before. Unfortunately, it's also a female. So I'll probably try this pair again and see if I can get a male.
See, that's what I didn't understand with James saying that they all look the same. I'm sure that you could selectively breed your rainbows for different things. Like I'm sure you could.
That's where the reds came from versus the oranges or the yellows. And
so I oversimplified it. So like with boas, obviously hypo looks hypo and jungle and all those drastically change pattern and color. And you can do that because why did my brain just go blank? You know who I'm thinking of, Jason? Out west, rainbows.
Dave Collins?
Yeah. Dave Collins done this for decades. He is selectively bred and he has his own lines of really cool patterns and all that. So it is, but it's not, to me, it's just not as drastic as, Sun Glow Boa or IMG or Motley, right? Those are two totally different ends of the spectrum and easily noticeable. I don't know. But there is, I like the red when it comes to rainbows. I like reds more than oranges.
See, and I tend to lean towards the oranges myself.
Yeah. Let's look at the chat real quick. A couple of things I wanted to go back to. Here we go. This is Lisa said, notice how we're talking about the dwarf, like Hog Islands. Notice how the scrub community never stuck with the dwarf label on tannin bars.
I think that's because the scrub community embraced that they were a completely different species, so they didn't have to call them dwarf scrubs.
Gotcha.
That would make sense.
It's just dwarf gets tricky. Now I understand it with like retics, like some of those like super dwarf. They're adult at 7 feet or whatever. That's definitely this different than a 21-foot retic. But again, when you're, like I said, with the Hog Islands, it's just very tricky. I think when someone hears dwarf, they may be expecting something different than what they may end up getting. Especially when they're watching some sort of YouTube video on a tuber who just goes, "Hey, look at my new dwarf boa, my Hog Island." And someone goes, "Dwarf, yeah, I'm gonna give me a small boa," and it ends up being 5 or 6 foot. And to them, to a lot of people, 5 or 6 foot snake is a big snake. Obviously, for folks that keep red tails, like myself and Jason, a 5-foot boa is not a big snake. So that's why I'm always like, if I take a 5-foot or 6-foot boa somewhere, then someone goes, "Look at that huge snake." I'm like, well, that's a relative term because that's not what I think of a huge snake.
I would say that the boa and the retic communities are probably very the same there, except the boa community just hasn't taken that second step that the retic community did. There are dwarf retics like the Jampaya and stuff, which those are like 10, 12 feet as adults, and then there's the super dwarfs, which are the really small ones. So the hogs are dwarfs.
Which is still a big snake.
Yeah. Well, it is a big snake, but compared to a mainland, it's dwarf.
Well, and the thing
I
over
still
there
hate
is
the whole dwarf phraseology because dwarf implies a genetic mutation. These are more pygmoid or pygmy. But that's my personal right.
And in the retics, they're also breeding them together. Whereas in boas, if someone has what we call dwarf, like some of these Central American type boas, the thing is to not breed them. No, they don't want to breed them to the Colombian morphs. It's not.
There are some people who are very much about keeping the dwarf and super dwarf lineages of retic pure, but it is definitely more, and more it's being shown that those are actually completely different species.
Yeah.
So they're creating hybrids kind of the same way you've got green tree hybrids.
Was it green trees?
It's doing this designer thing, which for retics I don't necessarily think is bad, because smaller, more handleable, more manageable retics is absolutely a better thing,
especially
both for the animals and for the hobby in general. Yeah. But there is still a problem with it that people make these 50% and then they breed 2 50% together and sell those as 50%, but they're not doing any actual true selective breeding
Well,
on those and maintaining them so that, like, from a 50% to a 50%, well, all those offspring are technically 50% by the math. You're going to have that bell curve distribution. Some of those animals are going to get very large.
Well, and that's kind of the issue. Someone sells a hog island to somebody as a dwarf boa. It's a 6-foot boa that's handleable. Someone sells a retic as a dwarf retic and it ends up 18 foot. That's a huge issue because they get this dwarf retic and they feed it the way they would want to feed a retic. And I just want to watch it eat. And then it still gets 18 foot.
Yeah.
But I think we saw some of that discrepancy in size even with the boas, because all the hypo was Central American.
Yeah.
And that was immediately bred into a lot of Colombian stuff, and you'll still see pretty big difference in hypos.
Well, but now you can see such a difference in, like, if it's Central American hypo now, like Sonoran, like that is definitely to me a dirtier. Not trying to sound bad, like if people like that look, but it's a dirtier hypo than what you see in Colombians now, right? A good-looking Colombian.
Well, Sonoran hypo doesn't look anything like what we could traditionally consider a hypo. Like, it doesn't add any of that extra burgundy or red.
Well, because they start out so dark in general too.
It's just a lighter snake. They get more yellow.
But in Colombians, they've really cleaned it up. It's a very, in some of them, it is a very clean look and very little speckling.
But to my knowledge, there was never a hypo found in Colombian boas. I think that was all added in from Central American hypos. Like the Nicaraguan and Panamanian, that did give you that more red to it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite genes just because of how clean it looks. But I'm also one that likes the clean background. Where, so it's weird. I like hog islands, but I don't like super speckly hog islands.
That's definitely a personal preference. There's people on both sides of that fence. There's people that want them really, really speckled, and then people that like the ones that have really been line bred to have very little.
Yeah. I like the lighter, the orange looking with very little speckling hog islands. Going back over to the chat. So Jeff Frederick had a good point. So we talked about if you'd only keep one and breed or keep whatever, what would it be? But he said, what single species would you keep if you couldn't breed them? Does that change either one of y'all's answers if you couldn't breed them?
Probably not for me, because I think that a Brazilian rainbow can still make a really pretty display snake.
Yes.
You're not, I know, they're nocturnal. You don't see them out in the day a whole lot, but I don't know. They're just a beautiful, beautiful animal.
Yeah, I think I might still stick with Alterna because mine have always been, very active and willing to be out and about. Yeah, they're more active at night, but I still see them during the day, and they've got a lot of personality to them. So I'd still be willing to have, just a bunch of nice naturalistic, basically like fake rock cut style cages.
Yeah.
To have them in those just doing their thing and being able to watch their natural behavior and stuff.
So I think it does change mine. I think if I can't breed them, if I'm not collecting and trying to do the morphs and see what I can make and this and that, I probably lean more into rubber boas. I would be okay with a room full of rubber boas. I'm trying to think of everything else I have. I think my Indian sand boas are really cool, and those would be a cool one to have just because it's a bigger sand boa and they're so different. But there's something about rubber boas. I really like them. So it would change mine if I couldn't breed them. Oh, anyways. So any plans for y'all this year adding anything to the collection? I know Travis is trying to narrow down his collection, but
yeah, I have been more and more trying to shift the collection down a little bit and go more towards cage keeping. About once a month, I go into the room and remap it out in my head as to how I would do things differently. My last mental fit that I drew up plans for would be getting rid of all of the racks and even putting the ball pythons into cages.
But then you have to see them.
Yeah, but I don't mind seeing them.
They might stop breeding.
Yeah, but that would get me. That would, with the space that I have in there, that would put me down to 16 cages. So that would be like a 58% reduction in like my ball python collection. Now, if I sold everything that was on Morph Market right now, that would get me more than halfway there. But, it wouldn't get me all the money that I need for all of the cages and lighting and everything. Plus, I've got some space in the other snake room that I want to outfit with some more cages. So,
So on Morph Market, what's your business name?
Asplundii.
God damn it! I hate you.
Asplundii. It's not that hard.
He knows how to spell it by now. Come on now.
Sounds like an alternative to sugar.
That's Splenda.
I know. It's okay. ASPLUNDII.
That's a plant?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is up with your logo? I'm gonna judge you right now.
That's fine. Judge me. I don't care.
I'm pulling.
It's the actual color scheme of the flower of the plant.
What a nerd.
Yes. I am a nerd.
I'm pulling it up for that. That's his logo. Jeff Frederick sitting over there in the chat. Just look at that. That's what he has, man. All the great work you can do with a logo, and that's what Travis has. That's what he came up with. It looks like my
last one was a black and white picture of the flower,
but it looks like a bar that someone in the military would have on their uniform. Like it is. Let's see what Travis has on his. There's ball pythons.
Yeah, that's just ball pythons right now.
Jeff said that Travis has never asked. I know. I'm asking for him at this point, Jeff.
Okay.
The man needs some help.
You know why I've never asked Jeff? Because Jeff is my friend, and I don't expect Jeff as my friend to just do shit for me.
I consider Jeff a friend. He has offered. I've never said, "Hey, Jeff." I don't think I have. Okay, maybe I have once. But he's a nice guy.
I know he is. Jeff's a great guy.
And after seeing your logo, he's going to feel bad for you. Let's see what you got. Ball pythons, and ball pythons.
I just sent you.
Hey, there's your $58 one.
Yeah, there's my $58 one.
Can I give you
sent you an image of the flower?
All right, hold on. I'm gonna pull up the flower.
What is there a common name that we would know for this flower?
It's one of the orchid flowering bladderworts. So no, probably not.
Here it is.
Bladderwort sounds horrible.
White, purple, yellow, purple, white.
Jeff says he does feel bad, and he said you guys will talk. I'm just saying, okay, I see the flower. I don't know why it's that amazing to you, but even so, if I look at your logo and that flower, I don't feel the connection. I mean, I get it. It's color-ish similar, but
okay, well, let me pain in the ass that you're going to sit here and critique me.
Look at all these brown ball pythons you have for sale. Oh, look, this one's not brown.
I've got a bunch of yellow ones too.
This yellow one just looks like it's covered in mites. What trait is that? Freeway Inchy Pastel Pin. What gives it the speckling there? Is it the freeway?
The pin and the freeway. Yeah. I just sent you my old logo.
Oh God, how bad is that? It's like an in memoriam. Jesus Christ! Hold on.
This does look like
this poor flower. You just put a date underneath it when it died. You can't even. I know that says genetics, but that is the worst font underneath that.
Which is when I went with a much more basic ass font.
Oh man. Mitch McCline says the current logo is better. Well, that wasn't a high bar for him to go over, Mitch. That's not. Yeah. Yes, it is better. Jeff says Travis is focused on high contrast albinos and ball pythons. Very much not brown snakes when he gets it right. Well, he didn't get it right a couple of times here because pretty brown ass snakes.
Yes, but see, those are the basic ingredients to then make really high contrast snakes.
I agree. This is the basic ass snakes. I do like when you mix albino or like, that's why I like banana and ball pythons because it looks different. Like if I'm going to do a ball python morph, it's going to have to look different.
And nobody likes albinos anymore, though. It's weird.
See, and I love albinos, and if people don't like them, then they can go take a long walk off a short pier.
Like, I've always had pretty high contrast ones, and I'll put them at my table at the shows, and I can't even get $125 for them.
See, I like albinos. I like bananas. I like pieds because I can look at them and go, "That's fucking different."
I think pied blew everybody's mind when that first came out.
I still love pied. I still think it's look. I'm going to try and get rid of 2 ball pythons this weekend, hopefully. But the one I'm keeping for sure is my banana pied. It's got the 2 traits that I like in a ball python, and I'm good. But then I've got like a blade clown, which don't get me wrong, it's kind of cool, but it's still a brown snake. Like it's. And then, now I've also have one that I think is a waste of traits. It's another one I'm trying to get rid of is a banana pastel. Like that just ruins the banana. It's all washed out, faded, and to me, it's just not as. I like crisp, clean colors. But I guess that's the awesome thing about this hobby is you can like so many people can like so many different things, and I'll shit on them if it's not the thing I like.
Yeah, I know you will. So I just sent you 2 snakes. The first one is, what you would call an ugly ass brown snake.
God, yeah,
it's carrying the albino gene, and if I breed it into a candy, I get something like the second snake, where the contrast on that is just really amped up for the Candino.
Hold on, let me pull it up so everybody can see what we're talking about. Yeah, that does nothing for like.
Okay, ugh. That doesn't. But that's, like I said, that's the recipe component. And I'll go to the next one.
See, that's cool.
Yeah, but you need that dark thing to get to this brighter.
I get it. There's just so many dark things like that. You would stop it, Jason.
I mean, I got a rack full of black sandboas right here, so I tend to go for the dark.
Yeah, I was going to say, James, you've got a black.
I've got 2 of them.
Russian. What the hell are you talking about? You don't like black snakes?
I do. Look, I don't tend to like black snakes. I do like black Russians because they're goofy ass looking snakes with the big old eyes on top of their black head. They're a Samboa, so I have to have them because it's like Pokemon. You got to catch them all. But my
black snake is just a black milk.
See, that's cooler to me than and Katie's gonna hear this, but we have a black Mexican king. To me, is not cool. It's fine, but a black milk snake to me is cooler. But I think it's cooler to me because no one fucking has them. Right? Everyone went and got king snakes, but no one has black milk snakes. And black milk snakes get bigger and they're cooler looking.
Yeah. That's why I went with the black milks, is because it's as close as I'm comfortable getting to an indigo, because I don't feel that I can properly keep a dry mark on. And while the black milks are fairly active, they're nowhere near as active as a dry marcon. So
how big do they get?
They can get 6-7 feet.
Yeah, thick. They're thick. Yeah. The problem with the black milks is that the color change. When some people want to buy a black snake, they want it to be black when they buy it. The problem is you buy a baby black milk snake, they're not black.
No, they're tricolor. And I would love to get one and watch it go through. I bought my girl.
That's what I was going to say. I think that's awesome.
I think it's awesome. To watch that's why I like. That's part of the reason I like my Candoya, is because they change colors like nobody's business.
My Viper bows do too, and I didn't expect it to be as dramatic with them as it is.
I would like to get another Viper boa. And yes, for anybody asking, I would definitely wear a glove with it because I don't feel like getting bit by a fucking Viper boa.
I got bit yesterday by one.
Yeah, see, fuck that. There's no joy in that. I'm not doing that.
I got tagged by my big female Candoya girl, and that was painful.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Arboreal snakes are not fun to get bitten by.
So there was an article you posted, Travis, a few weeks back that was talking about the strike speed of snakes versus their teeth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have that guy on the podcast in a few weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about that one because that was a very interesting thing, seeing things like the strike speed of like king snakes and stuff. Not really that, they're just more of a gnawer. They go up and start biting and chewing versus ambush predators like boas and pythons, and their teeth were much different than the teeth of. So I'm really interested in talking about that. Jeff said hog. Yeah, we talked about this earlier, Jeff, about how hog islands fire up like cresteds. And so do rainbow boas. They do the same thing. So like every time you want to show them to somebody, they look like absolute dog shit. Just the same way as someone goes to a show and looks at crested geckos on a table and they look like dog shit because none of them are fired up at the show.
You'll often hear it called white walls with rainbow boas because at night they get their side, the white comes up real high.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but they are pretty. So many ball pythons, Travis. Just all right.
That's all I've got right now. You know, maybe in 200 and something days I'll have 60 odd Candoya for you.
No,
I am oddly excited for that myself.
Now hold on, I'm going to pull up one of the snakes you have for sale, and you're going to have to explain this one to me.
Okay.
All right, because the price and the look, I don't fucking get it. That's a normal ass ball python, man. That is not a $650 ball python. How?
If there's an entirely good possibility that I'm higher than normal on that one, but Trojan is.
He has free shipping. That's why.
Yes. Trojan is it's an incomplete dominant hypomelanin. So if I had that girl next to a normal, you would be able to see the difference between her. It's almost like a super dark caramel.
I call BS. It's called Trojan because it just hides inside the ball python and makes it look normal, like inside of a Trojan horse. That's all it's got to be, because that is a ball python. That's why I don't like you ball python people.
Yeah, and she's het for clown. So
it's a fucking normal ass ball python. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but y'all be holding some ugly ass snakes. Take my boas.
Like I said, this is the stuff that I'm moving on because it is byproduct for the things that I was trying to make for myself, or is no longer useful in my projects because the projects have moved to the next level. So
that was my problem with the boas I bred last year, and finding out that my male was het anery, and I don't like anery, but I ended up with a couple of babies. Where like, well, I got to keep them because all these genes are in that snake. So I do have one that's jungle ghost het albino. I'm like, she's gonna grow up to be gray. I'm like, and really dark and pretty black. I'm like, but she's got all the genes I need in her, so I got to keep her.
You were really trying to find somebody that was going to tell you those weren't Andrews too.
I fucking knew they were. As soon as I walked in and saw them in there, I'm like, fucking. But like, I messaged the dude. I was like, hey, do you have anery in your collection? Nope. I was like, yep, you do.
Yeah, you do.
One
of those adults has het anery. Have fun finding out which one it is.
I think there's a lot of that probably still floating around, because a lot of, people were selling hets as just normals, wholesaling them and stuff.
Well, everybody trying to make snows at one point, and so there
it's
were
like with corn snakes. You can't buy a normal corn snake. Well,
there are no normals.
You could get a normal corn snake from Justin.
Yeah.
Mostly because he literally picked up normal corn snakes where he lived and bred them.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you cannot get a normal damn corn snake. It's het for 900 things. Like, you could just go to PetSmart and get 2 random corn snakes and breed them together and end up with 3 or 4 different morphs from them. It would not surprise me.
The fun thing I get to suffer in 3 years or so is that male who's het anery. I have his sister, a year younger sister, who's also a possible het albino. But now I also know who is also a possible het anery. So she is either possible het anery, possible het albino, or possible het snow, or none of the above. So I get to spend 4 or 5 years raising that up to find out what it is in a few years.
That is
or
a tough
you
thing
can
with
hope
boas.
that Ben gets tests for boas and you could send a shed in. But I don't know where Ben is on that.
Yeah,
but if you send him sheds now, he'll be able to build that database. So send him some aneries. Sheds.
I've got anery sheds. I can send him that. But yeah, so that's the fun thing with that in a few years is that project. Right now, I've got 2 adult females that I'm trying to find out if they're het albino. That's what I was more surprised that it was het anery, because like I would be more willing to bet there's way more het albino boas out there than there are het anery boas out there. Because you don't really see aneries that much anymore. That gene is kind of just like, unless it makes snows, there's not a ton of anery stuff out there. I think people move towards IMG, which I think is a cool gene in certain cases, but IMG is a shit gene, I feel like, to stack up with stuff. Because it's going to be a black snake. And you're just going to have a bunch of genes.
Because it'll always win. Yeah. I think it's always going to eventually take over.
So that's why if I ever do IMG, it's going to be in an albino project. So I can actually see what's lying underneath a lot of that. So anyways, yeah, I've got a motley pos head. Well, she's supposed to be motley head albino female. I've got her hooked up to a super sunglow male that I produced, which I'm excited that if one of these males take, they will be the first thing I've produced from something I produced.
That's a really cool feeling.
Yes, I'm super excited about it. Like last year, I produced the babies from a male that I bought. I tried the male that I had, but he didn't do anything, and so we'll see what happens. But I'm looking forward to that. And I also I bit the bullet. I've had this one male for a couple years now. He's a sunglow, but I always just kept him as a pet because he had bug eyes when he was born. 2 bug eyes because albino gene does that. We've talked on here before with Travis about that. It happens. And I was like, I'm not going to breed him. But knowing that it's not a genetic thing, right? They're not going to pass on bug eyes. It's not an inheritable trait. It is something that can happen in albinos, but that can happen in any albino litter. I was like, you know what? Let's try it. So I am going to try him. He is with a female and he's trying. We'll see what happens. Now, look, if the whole litter comes out with bug eyes, I'm completely wrong and I'm fucked. But unfortunately, he is the prettiest super sunglow I have. He was when he was born with his big ass eyes. I knew he would. So we'll see what happens.
That's always the case, isn't it?
Yes. That was the best looking jungle that was born out of this litter this year. Had a kink in its neck.
Yep.
Yeah, he went off to a friend for free as a pet. Like, here you go. You can have him. So I saw the litter when it was born. I was like, oh, man, that's pretty. And then my daughter goes, what's wrong with his neck? It's like, motherfucker. Jeff says, Travis going to do the DNA test for the yellow belly complex in any of his snakes.
I didn't know.
He don't care.
Have you done any testing?
Before Ben was with Morph Market and Clutch, I did some sex testing. I had him sex test kukris and my Ramphiophis. He also asked me for the Alterna because he had heard that Alterna behaved weirdly with his test and he wanted some known animals. So I sent him mine and it turned out that they were weird. And he has since refined the test so that they work better with Alterna.
How many species can he do the gender test with?
He can do the gender test with colubrids. I sent him the beaked snakes and the kukri because they're outside the normal colubrid, the true colubrid umbrella, especially the beak snakes, because that African lineage is very different. And Ben told me, he's like, these might not work. They worked fine for the kukri, and he said that he was fairly confident that my Ramphiophis were a 1.1, and to let him know if anything happened. And then a year later, 2 years later, I got a clutch of eggs from that pair, so it did end up being correct.
As long as he had the right ones.
Yeah.
So Jeff wanted to see some pictures of some of these things I was talking about. So I'm gonna share my screen. I pulled up all the pictures of this litter. I'll go through them real quick. Some of them I've sold. I'll show you the 2 holdbacks. These were born in May, so they look a little different now, but not drastically different. It'll come up, maybe, possibly. Let's try this. Bam, there we go. So yeah, this litter was a jungle hypo, possible het albino to a snow female. Now, I can go back and tell you it's a jungle hypo, 100% het anery, not het albino at all. But this is what I got from this. Was a hypo anery, so a ghost. For those that don't know, it was a ghost het call. I had possible jungle, but I'm not leaning towards it being jungle just based on some of the markers. This little guy I still have. He's kind of goofy lip. That's about it. He's a kind of a cool looking one. He's a little darker, he's darker than what I like, but anery jungle, definitely jungle. You can tell through some of the pattern. This is my holdback. Hypo, anery, het, albino, pos jungle, but she's a jungle.
I'd say jungle on that one.
Yeah. So I kept her. I actually posted a picture of her the other day, I think, on Instagram. She's looking nice. Just some other hypo aneries. This one just hypo. Some of them were a little darker, but another hypo. This is my other holdback. He's hypo jungle, head albino, head anery. So in a couple of years, he will go back to that snow, and I will finally make moon glows. Which
I think that was my favorite out of your litter.
I freaking love this one. But I cannot wait to make moon glows. I remember seeing the first moon glow in Daytona and just thinking that's freaking amazing. Even though, yeah, it's a white snake. I get it. It's a white snake and it's white on white, and it's not. But I remember seeing it and I'm thinking, man, I'll never be able to afford that. And in a couple of years, I'll be able to make it. And I could actually make jungle moon glows out of this. So that to me is really cool. This one also I love. If you look at the pattern on it, look on the sides. Like normally you have those little diamonds on the sides. There were straight vertical lines down the side pattern, which is the only one in the entire litter that looked like that. So that was fun. And then you get to anery. Just freaking black and gray.
Did both the parents have hypo?
Nope, just the dad. The mom is just a snow.
Okay.
Just more anery. That's
a cool jungle.
Yeah, this was a cool jungle. This one, I was possibly going to hold back. You see all this white here on the tail. And then I think one of my listeners bought this one. I think James Barry, ended up with this one. Whenever I took it to shows, I always priced it pretty high. I was like, I don't really want to sell it. And then I did. And then this is the one with the kink neck, which had this cool jungle pattern down the back and all. And then you can see the kink back here on the back of the neck. He eats fine. He's wonderful. It just, unfortunately, was the one messed up one. I was like, no, of course it is. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this guy. This holdback males I'm super excited about. Just the look. That's why I love hypo. Like even if you go through looking at hypos and jungles, they're tricky for someone who is not used to them. They are incomplete dominant traits. So for anybody that's not a breeder, incomplete dominant traits, they don't work with the regular dominant recessive. It's not I have this or that. They work like on a sliding scale of how it can look, which is why jungle is a tricky trait in boas, because there's so many jungles that there's two different looks to jungle. There's the one like this where the pattern's all funky, which I like. But man, there's so many people that label jungles and they just look like normal ass boas. You seen that? Like, you know what I'm talking about, Jason. It's just, this is a jungle. I'm like, sure it is.
Yeah, and that's been a transition, I feel like, because when I first started seeing jungles, they were very, very extreme. In fact, let me grab this book.
So yeah, incomplete dominant traits. You have
you guys
one
remember
option.
this? Sorry.
You have the normal option for how it's going to look. You have the trait, and then when you bring them together, you get a third complete different option. And so for so long in the hobby, they were called co-dominant, and I know Travis loves that because he loves when people get genetics wrong. But they were called co-dominant. Co-dominant does not work. Co-dominant is you have one trait, you have the other trait, and you mix them, and you have both traits together at the same time, which is not what we had, especially with hypos, right? You had normals and then hypos, and it definitely looks different. It's not, and you get super hypos, which are, I know is another thing where, like, if you're a geneticist, the idea of the word super can be annoying because really what we mean is homozygous. But
and then those can be hard to differentiate from just a really nice hypo. Yeah. So that's why I asked if both of yours had hypo, because that one, if you would have told me that was a super, I would have believed that.
Yeah, and I think it's the jungle which really cleans it up.
Which is doing it, yeah. So this,
and also the male, that male I picked from the breeder. Well, that male I picked from the breeder is a female. So that male's been a fiasco. It was supposed to be a female. I got it, and it had henny beans. So I was like, well, shit, it's not a female. And the guy ended up making it right. He gave me some money back. I ended up buying the female the next year out of the same litter for a pretty good price. But he's super clean. That's why I told him, I said, yeah, I know it's a male, but I'm going to keep it. It had the jungle pattern and hypo, and it's very clean background. And so this one definitely took more from the dad on that.
You guys notice that the males in the litters, it seems like the males are always nicer looking. Like the nicest one's always a male.
Which is cool with me because I can breed them to more females.
That's true.
It works, but I would rather have a gene. I don't know how y'all feel. Like Travis, you got the ball pythons and all that, but how you feel? I'd rather have the gene powerhouse in a male because it allows me to do much more with it than if it's in a female, especially when it comes to boas. Because if I breed that female boa, it's 2 years out from being able to try it again with something else.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this is the first, let me get it up the camera. That's the first time I ever saw a picture of a jungle. And I remember being
Cool.
they were all very, very dramatic like that. I feel like all the first ones I saw offered and posted on the King Snake forums and stuff.
Well, because they used to be very, those like the lines on the outside of the pattern, on the outside of the red used to be very defined. Like they used to have a kind of a border to them.
Yeah, like somebody bordered it with a Sharpie almost.
Yeah, and that was a lot of the jungles. But then, like I said, on my end, I like those jungles because I like to mix it with hypo because I like to be super light and then have that super fucked up pattern where it basically turns into a stripe, but a jagged stripe down the back. And that's the look I go for. But again, you see some that I guess lean more towards the way they used to look, but it's like a regular pattern with kind of that line around the outside of the saddles.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see it. I don't know. That's another thing. It's tricky to sell jungles.
And it could be that back then people didn't sell those low expression ones as jungle because they didn't know until their offspring showed jungle traits. I mean, I don't really know how that worked or how that came about.
Yeah. I would guess that may be some of it, but some of it may also be, basically the same thing that you see with like pastel and ball pythons, where if you work to maintain a really nice, clean, good-looking jungle, then you get those really nice, clean, good-looking jungles. But if your goal is just to breed jungles or breed whatever the fuck you have just because you have it, then you start just breeding shit, and you end up with shitty-looking jungles and shitty-looking pastels.
Which I feel like happens with any new morph because they're just trying to get it into as many females as possible without being real selective until there's enough of them, and then people start refining that. Like look at how much difference you can have in a cow albino.
I was about to say, I think cow albinos got shit on for so long, but they were the first albinos. So everybody was like, breed that motherfucker to everything. And they did.
Yeah.
And it's fine because we know that albino can hide ugly in a boa. It can hide a lot of ugly.
But then look at like Tom Burke, what he refined with the lipstick line albino.
Yeah.
I mean, those are just amazing, the work he did with that.
Well, and everybody treated Sharp like it was so much more amazing than Call, but the problem was when Sharp came in, it had a high price point. So people weren't buying a Sharp at however much and then breeding it to a cheap-ass ugly boa. They were really line breeding those from the get-go. So that's kind of why I like Call, and that's why everything I do is Call. Is my goal is to breed the best-looking Call Sunglows. And go, look, it's not the fact that it's a Call and that albino gene is shit. It's that people are shit, and they bred it to ugly looking snakes.
Just wasn't refined. What's interesting about the Sharp albino, when that first came in, Brian Sharp had bred that to a cow and got all double heads basically. And so he kind of pushed off that project. Like he never actually produced Sharp albinos from what I understand. But because that first Sharp albino, the wild caught one, was bred to a cow, there is always the possibility that a Sharp albino out there has cow in it.
Oh, that's don't say that. That's horrifying.
Yeah, Ben and I talked about that on one of the times that he had me on.
Yeah, it's weird, right? To think, I mean, it's probably very few at this point, but there's always that chance.
Well, that's like sand boas. There's people out there that are producing sand boas that have paradox albino and the bell albino in the same snake. I'm like, stop doing that. Please don't do that.
Yep.
But they go for a look from that. And you can kind of, I've seen some where they've done that.
That extra bright white spot. Yeah.
Yeah. They have the paradox kind of speckling in it, but it's white. It's not black. It's odd.
So I have a question for Travis regarding the albinos. You told me once that in a certain species, there can only be one type of T negative. Am I remembering that correctly? So that would mean that you're saying that the Sharp is a T positive.
Is Sharp the one that's allelic to boa woman?
Mm-hmm.
Then yes, it is likely T positive. But that's again, I've never had my hands on both of them.
I've always wondered that.
Been able to look at them. Like if I had my hands on both of them, I might be able to tell you a little bit more definitively. But one of them is definitely a T positive.
They do have a little darker eyes. They are still red.
Okay.
But I've also seen in a lot of different, now that there's more and more T positives popping up, seems to be a huge variation in the amount of melanin that they're still getting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that chain's broken somewhere, but some are very, very brown. Some are still very yellow. So I just wondered if that's one that's, that is a T positive, but just very low on the spectrum. Maybe
probably is, but like as we see with candy and albino and ball pythons, that's a T positive and a T negative. So
okay, so it could be something similar.
It could be
like
similar.
VPI albino, which is the T positive. It's definitely different look than the other two. Like you look at them, and sometimes when people put the word albino next to it, you look at it and go, "How the hell is that albino?" Because that's not the way we tend to view an albino. We didn't tend to view it yellow and white or red and white.
Yeah, everything that we call a T positive albino is actually a hypomelanistic. And what most of the people call hypomelanistic is actually hypopigmentation, at least in ball pythons. Like the hypo ball python, it's not a hypomelanistic ball python. It's a hypopigmented ball python because both the gold and the black are lightened in those ball pythons. But in lavender, candy, caramel, ultramel, all of those, it's just the melanin that's being taken down from the wild type level of melanin. The xanthans are the same. So those animals are all hypomelanistic. But again, because of the very, very early people naming these things in the most ridiculous and wrong ways possible, because those people didn't even have a grasp of high school level genetics, we have things established that just are not scientifically accurate.
I could tell this is a little bit of a pet peeve for you.
I've had too many of these conversations of late, well, because of this, it's got this gene that's hidden, just like the hidden gene Woma gene was hidden. It's like, no, there is no hidden gene in hidden gene Woma. There's not. There never was.
It's simply a name.
It's a name, and it's a bad name, but it was named by somebody who didn't understand genetics at all. You can't have hidden genes. They're not hidden.
I just want to throw these pictures up real quick because Jeff had asked earlier about seeing the sun glow. I don't have current adult pictures of my sun glows, but I do have when they were babies, when I decided, hey, these are the two that I'm keeping. And so I was going to show a picture of what they look like here. So yes, they're a little brighter here, but they're still actually pretty bright. But these are my two holdbacks. This was the one on the left is the one I've tried the past 2 years. We're going to see what he does. The one on the right is the one that had bug eyes. And you can see how like light, but it's very, very red and looks very different. But yeah.
Did they lose any contrast, or are they still pretty high colored like that?
They're still pretty high colored.
Nice.
And that is kind of my goal.
Because those look great.
Yeah.
These are called.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does an albino call look like next to a sun glow? Do you have that?
I don't have one, but I can find one. Give me.
They're not as orange. The hypo adds a lot of that. They're usually more yellow, unless it's something like the lipstick that was refined to increase that red.
Here we go. This is it's kind of an uglier one, but this one will work. Put it up on the screen. And this is from Morph Market, but there's and this one's gonna be a little dirtier as it gets older. I can just tell by looking at the pattern in between the saddles. But this is probably a pretty good version of an albino call. It will, depending on how it was bred, it may lighten up. Now the lipstick ones I think tend to hold their red and oranges as they get older.
Like when you had yours up,
mm-hmm.
I feel like the body banding was significantly redder on yours
because those were sun glows.
Yeah, so they're hypoalbinos.
Hypoalbinos, and that's another thing. So I think hypomelanistic is probably the right term when used for boas because it definitely does reduce the melanin, but it's also a pattern mutation. Like it is a color mutation, but there is definitely a pattern change in a hypo versus a regular. Those saddles become more bow tie shaped. You tend to get a little less striping in the tail every now and then. There's definitely something pattern.
Do sharp sun glows look the same as the call sun glows?
Yeah. People will tell you they're prettier, but I think that's all depends on who bred the call. So that's my goal, is to be able to produce this all the time, always nice and bright and pretty, and keep that throughout. Like I said, my adult, I think I've got let's see. Let me see all my pictures on my Facebook. Here's a picture of just his tail right now, but you can still see there's a lot of orange there.
Yeah, when you first posted that, I thought you were breeding albino or breeding ball pythons.
Yeah, no, that's my Sunglow male's tail on a motley female, but you can see he still got a ton of orange, hasn't faded. He's, I don't know, 4 years old now. He's still got a lot of cream color in the background. He hasn't faded there. And that's the look I go for, because everybody, when they picture older call albinos and older Sunglow call Sunglows, is they picture them faded. And again, it's just because they bred them to ugly ass snakes, and that shit happens. So, yeah, that's where I'm moving towards, and so I'm looking forward to that. I think everybody needs to have, if you're gonna breed, I think you need to breed for something, not just for animals. That drives me nuts. Again, it drives me nuts, especially in boas, because that's the main place I come from. I can look at an albino, and I can look at a snow and tell you, yeah, that's not a good looking one. Like, it, again, albino covers a lot of ugly shit, but you can see it when it comes out. Look, the snow that I have, I'm not gonna lie, I bought her because she was an adult snow and I needed a breeding snow. And when I got her, I could tell if she wasn't a snow, she'd be a not so great looking normal boa. And I can see that in the offspring. So the two good holdbacks that I have were two of the best ones, and they definitely took after their dad. He cleaned up the pattern. He got rid of all the speckling that I definitely know the mom has underneath all of that white snow color.
So you wanted a snow so you could prove out the anery.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to make sure he was anery. Oh fuck! I'm not gonna lie. I'm so looking forward to, in a couple of years, of being able to produce, because he is het anery. I'm so much closer to being able to produce my own snows and stuff. So I'm excited about that, to make my own snows. Again, that was a snake when I got into boas. That was not an obtainable thing, right?
No, it wasn't. Yeah, they were very expensive.
And when I saw moon glows, that was another, like, I can't do that. It was like $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 for some of those for a single snake. Again, I remember the first moon glow was not for sale. It was on a table. I don't even remember where it was in Daytona. I remember seeing it, and to be able to do that myself, cannot wait.
That's cool.
Jeff said, does that also mean that ball python T negative albino is not actually T negative, or that the candy is T negative too, or maybe just a freaky scenario with T positive? That's all you, Travis. That's a you question.
No, in ball pythons, the candy is T positive, but the albino is definitively T negative. We know that because of the actual gene has been sequenced. It is the tyrosinase gene.
Old tyrosinase.
But it is possible to have mutations to tyrosinase that are still semi-functional and produce low levels of melanin.
I just learned that I pronounced that wrong all these years.
How are you saying it?
I've always said tyrosinase.
Tyrosinase.
Because that's what, when I did the Google Translate thing where it tells you how to pronounce something, that's what it told me years ago.
So many syllables in there. Sounds fancier though.
It does, yeah. I'll stick with it.
I posted this the other day on my Instagram, but this is my holdback female. Almost a year later, 6 months or so later. Still very clean background, and that's what I go for in boas. And again, that's why a lot of the dwarf boas don't do it for me, because they are a lot more speckly and a lot busier than super clean Colombians.
That's true. There's a lot of color that you can get in some of them, though. It's pretty neat.
It is. Well, and a lot of that is those iridophores that give you that rainbow color like you get in rainbow boas. Mm-hmm. A lot of those dwarf boa species tend to have a lot of those iridophores, and you can see that they shine really well in the sun,
especially the darker ones.
Yeah,
I've always I kick myself to this day for never getting Corn Island boas that get the peaches in them and the olive greens, and you can't find them for sale. And there was always one of those things that I was gonna wait and get later. And now that I really want them, there's a couple people out there that have them, but I don't even know of anybody who's breeding them right now.
Travis, here's another one. How does the T positive, T negative allele relationship work in Candinos?
Since it's the same gene,
I guess
that's what makes them allelic. It's just
Gotcha.
it's a non-functional copy and a semi-functional copy.
So does that mean one covers the other? By being maybe not covered, but one you see and the other one is just there?
Yeah.
Is that how that's working? Okay. Jeff says Ghost is such a cool mutation combination and colubrids. Shame about boas. It's just the anery. They get so much darker with age, and you can't help that. It just happens. But I mean, you can. That's why hypo. You mix hypo into it, mix jungle into it, or hypo there, but you get jungle into it, and it keeps it a little lighter, longer down the line. That's the fun with genetics. I enjoy the genetics of this stuff.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, like I said, that's why I play with ball pythons, is just for the genetic fun factor of it.
But anywho,
It definitely leads to that potato chip thing, though, where you always need more, right?
you can't have just one. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's run through some of the things that were over on our Facebook page this week, because Travis got really excited and posted about 7 trillion things.
Dude, I came across a whole bunch of cool stuff this week.
Jason Creekmore posted this. Let's see. It's a Komodo at the Toronto Zoo. Komodo dragons are always cool. I want to see one of these in person so bad. Not the Komodo. I've seen those. Nathan Holcomb posted a video of someone fork feeding like worms or whatever to a tuatara.
That's cool.
I want to see a tuatara in person. They're mini dinosaurs almost. I mean, they've been around for forever, and they're not lizards, even though they look like lizards. They're so cool.
Are there any on display anywhere in the U.S.?
I think somewhere. Someone, I want to say someone has them. I don't know where. Someone reproduced them, didn't they?
Yeah, I want to say San Diego. You know who would know? Jewlander.
Yeah. So that is a dream species I want to see. What the hell is
that a croc?
That is a crocodile.
Holy shit.
Nathan posted this. Let's see let me see if I can. Why is my mouse not one? Okay, calm down. See if it tells me where it's at. It's got to be
Kakadu.
In Kimberly. So, Jesus Christ. I mean, you just thought everything else wanted to kill you in Australia. Now the crocodiles have learned how to ambush from above. It's fucking
So
horrible.
say how big that one is?
Let's see.
I mean, it looks fairly mature.
See, lots of questions about swimming safety and what seasons. Wanted to point out it doesn't say how big it is. It's big enough to not want to have that above you if you're wandering around in the Kimberley region of Australia.
It's like when I learned that Komodo dragons can climb trees until they're like 4 feet long. Could you imagine a 4 foot long lizard above you?
No, thank you. Well, I mean, look at croc monitors. They can fucking do it with full grown.
Yeah.
Travis, he posted this one about armored dinosaurs with huge bony knobs. That's that. You know what? I think you posted that, and that's why we've been getting so many porn posts in our Facebook group this week. You posted about
that is not my fault. You need to moderate your members who join.
I know. Gotta watch out for being pummeled by huge bony knobs. Reptilandia had beta lizard babies born. That's cool.
That's cool.
Jeff says that San Diego does have tuataras. So
I need to go there then.
I need to go there too. This video posted all over the fucking Facebook, and it was annoying. Of this guy on a subway with his boa, and then the thing always said his venomous pet snake. Just so many things in this video made me cringe. Article's a bit silly, but 2 to 4. Oh, this is about the that island, Snake Island, or 2,000 to 4,000 golden lancehead vipers on it.
Damn.
You just thought Australia was scary. Fuck that. Every step, like at that point, every step is gonna be near a snake.
Yes, but you're not allowed on that island.
How big's the island?
Let's see if it says here. It's not huge.
100 acres.
100 acres.
So what kind of food source supports those numbers?
It's got to be birds. It's got to be a large number of migratory birds.
Yeah, but when the birds going to learn to stop going there?
No time soon, apparently. Oh, Travis, when you're trying to enjoy the movie, but they won't stop showing snakes. I do this all the time. The worst
Yes,
is
you do.
Naked and Afraid. Naked and Afraid. God, I'm horrible about that because Naked and Afraid has so much B-roll of snakes from around the world, and they never fucking match it up to where they are in the world. I'm like, guys, come on, just make a folder on your fucking computers of we took this B-roll in Africa, and when you're filming an episode in South America, don't use any of the B-roll from Africa.
Do you remember the second Rambo when he's in Cambodia and there's a boa climbing on the branch next to his head?
It wasn't until much later watching Indiana Jones that I realized they're all fucking legless lizards.
Yeah, most of them are.
When he's in Egypt and he's in there and goes, why's it got to be snakes? I'm like, because it's not. There's like 3 berms and the rest are all giant European legless lizards.
Wasn't there a bunch of garter snakes in there too?
I'm
gonna have to watch that again now.
I think that was in the second one. There was well, the second one's also where they cut open what has to have been a retic or a Burmese python, and live babies come wiggling out of it that look like eels.
Yeah. I was reading a book. This was a couple years ago, but it was in the book. It talks the guy's in the Amazon and finds anaconda eggs. I wrote them a scathing review.
Nice. The old
because that's an easy thing to look up.
Yeah, but why do that? Why put effort into that?
Yeah, why actually try?
If you're going to write a book, don't you think you should do some research?
Nah, it's a fictional book anyways. Fuck it, we can make it all fake.
Like nobody's going to the Amazon to fact check me.
No, but you can go to the pet store to fact check that one. It's
yeah.
I like this one. Travis said, "Your ancestors hunted mammoths with a spear. You can walk past a goose on the sidewalk. No, you fucking can't. Geese are horrible. I'd rather take on the mammoth. I've taken on many of a goose, and I hate almost all of them. Shy of Egyptian geese. Egyptian geese are the only geese that I've ever found that were nice.
Geeses?
Geese.
Did you really just say geeses?
No.
Okay. I heard geeses, and I was.
Yes, I said geese. That is the plural of geese. If you have more than one group of geese, it's geeses. What is this you posted, Travis? Is that an amphiuma?
Salamander.
That is a long ass salamander.
Yeah. That's like 60% tail.
Wow.
You wonder what the fucking purpose of that is. Like the amount of energy that takes to have that tail. You can have energy to have it and
drag it around.
And what benefit does it have? Cretaceous turtle from Madagascar had adaptations for suction feeding. Kind of like, I guess, like a matamata, like the way matamatas just.
Yeah, but the thing that's different about this is it's a family of, so like the matamatas and the soft-shelled turtles and stuff, they're all related to one another. These suction mouth turtles are completely unrelated to any of those. So these are more like the lineage that gave rise to things like red-eared sliders and stuff.
Yeah, it's Madagascar. That's a weird-ass place. Scientists finally know how an ancient reptile lived with such an absurdly long neck. Did you read? What was that one about, Travis? I didn't get a chance to read it.
I mean, it's basically what it says.
So
these were a species. They were never really quite sure how they operated.
Just drove their head around on the ground.
Well, yeah, they didn't know if they were terrestrial or aquatic or anything like that. Because like basically their body is essentially built like a lizard kind of, but then they've got this obnoxious neck. So, basically the question was like, are these giraffe lizards or are these, like
was this a small
salamanders
species?
With crazy necks? And what they ended up doing was they did micro CT scanning on them. And what they learned through that allowed them to reconstruct the skulls for these, which are mostly very crushed, and reconstruct them in a more accurate way. And they have what appears to be teeth specialized for aquatic feeding. So they think that these were probably shallow lagoon type animals.
Interesting. And for anybody listening, the picture looks like, I would say that neck's got to be 3 to 4 times the length of the body.
Oh yeah.
The neck makes up 70% of the length of the body.
Well, it's interesting because it's almost like, so one of my favorite stats is, and maybe one of y'all know this, but how many vertebrae are in the neck of a giraffe?
Same as a human, right?
Yeah, same as human, 7.
And it's
right?
the same with these guys.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool. Just trying to look at that, like just extended bones to make this work. Australian lungfish has biggest genome ever sequenced.
Hey, Jeff has a good point about the tail.
The tail, I saw that.
Mhm.
He said he bets that the long-tailed salamander lived in a climate with an extended hibernation period. So storage, energy storage, a lot like a fat-tailed gecko or something like that, but
That would actually make a lot of sense.
in a salamander. So this is always misleading when it says something with a big genome because
No, this is the biggest genome. This is the largest genome in terms of the number of bases in chromosomes.
no, I get it, but still, you've got to. I imagine like 70% of that genome is probably useless. It's
Probably yes,
a lot
but
of
I mean,
copies
50% of our genome is useless.
Oh, I know.
And these guys' genome is like twice the size of ours.
Damn. Just it's a weird thing. I don't think people understand how much of our DNA doesn't do shit. Like we're always like DNA is super important. And you really should be like some of your DNA is super important. Some of it is just there because millions of years of evolution, we just made extra copies of shit we didn't need.
Well, it's not just extra copies of stuff. We've got things that are basically old, dead viruses.
Yeah.
They don't do anything anymore. They're just stuck there. So they are mostly basically that's what, you've got introns and exons. That's all your introns are, is they're the pieces of like old viruses and stuff that you actually have to splice out and stitch together
to make a protein.
The DNA to get rid of those old virus parts to actually make the gene.
This was interesting. First fossil feather ever found belonged to an Archaeopteryx. That's another thing that people need to realize: how many dinosaurs had fucking feathers. So many dinosaurs had feathers.
But that was the first one that they were able to actually say this was, in fact, a feathered dinosaur, right? Wasn't that the Archaeopteryx?
No, this was the one that it was described as the first bird. And this feather was actually found before the holotype of Archaeopteryx was found.
Gotcha.
So they didn't know for sure that this feather was an Archaeopteryx feather until recently.
That makes sense.
Gotcha.
Again, this was another one where they did CT scanning on it and were able to identify it against the feathers of the actual Archaeopteryx holotype and show that they are the same.
Well, and if you mix that dinosaur DNA with
really
frog
cool.
DNA, they don't grow feathers. That's what Jurassic Park says. If you mix them with frogs.
Actually, Jurassic Park didn't. The original Jurassic Park didn't address that.
The new one did. I remember in the new one they said that the reason they didn't have feathers was because they were mixed with frog DNA.
The frog DNA. Oh, okay.
I was like, way to try to cover your ass.
20 years later. Got to come up with something.
But in their defense, we didn't fucking know shit had feathers then either. So like it wasn't common knowledge that hey, all these things running around had feathers on them. But they also, in not their defense, keep calling a thing a velociraptor, which was 100% not a velociraptor.
No.
Like you could kick a velociraptor. That they weren't huge.
No, they weren't. They were about the size of a coyote.
Yeah, he can come running at you, and if you're fast enough, you can kick him in the head. I forget. Is that a Utah raptor? The one?
Yeah, it's the Utah raptor. That's
yeah. I guess Utah raptor wasn't as fun to say as velociraptor when they were.
Utah raptor was discovered during the filming of it, so it hadn't even been formally described.
Gotcha.
There's only been one, too, isn't there?
Utah raptor?
Yeah.
No, there have been a couple of skeletons of Utah raptor.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I guess they kind of hinted towards it during the film when they show when they find them in the desert doing digging and all. They're kind of digging up a Utah raptor in that area.
Well, in that area, what they probably at the time that it was filmed would have been Deinonychus.
Gotcha. Jeff Frederick said, get Travis to describe an Archaeopteryx for listeners. $5 if he does it in the style of an archaeologist belittling a child for comparing a raptor to a turkey. Oh.
Well, they weren't the size of turkeys. They were about the size of a crow.
That's not nearly as scary.
Does he get extra if he threatens to impale the kid with
to disembowel him?
Yeah, disembowel him with yeah.
Oh, so snakes evolved venom fangs multiple times from wrinkles in their teeth. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What an odd one. Bizarre armored spikes belong to oldest ankylosaurs ever discovered. I love ankylosaurs with their bony knobs.
What's cool is that ankylosaurs are what stegosaurs basically evolved into. They're the same. Yeah. They're the same branch. So they started with the really ornate things on their back, and then those ended up, getting shorter and squatter and flattening and turning them into a shell and a mobile tank complex,
like a giant armadillo dinosaur with a bony knob.
So instead of being spiky and stabby, they ended up just being club it to death.
Fossils of the Cretaceous period, coelacanth discovered in Texas. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Fossils estimated to be over 96 million years old. Wow. That's a cool one. Some memes. Jeff sent me a picture the other day of this happening, but it was in Texas, in Galveston, of the alligators during this time of year where they stick just their nose through the ice and they basically get frozen into place as the water freezes above them. But he sent me one. This is the pictures from North Carolina here, but he sent me one the other day. I think it was from Galveston or from Beaumont. Have
you ever seen the pictures from the Colorado Gator Farm?
Yeah.
Where they do that?
Yeah. I saw this meme and it made me think of Warren Booth. It was about bed bugs. So the bed bugs 5 million years ago, and then all of a sudden beds are invented, and they got super excited. And this is just a dumbass free-handling a cobra. We'll go right past that one. I don't know what that is. That's a very angry frilled lizard.
It's a cool shot.
Same angry frilled lizard.
It is a cool shot. I don't understand why they actually climb people's legs while they're angry at them.
They want you to know.
They're going to go club them in the nuts.
They want you to know that they are angry, and then they're going to run away. Jeff said, do we know for sure that Stegosaurus plates stood upright? Could they have hung down like armor or an empty kid's hair? I mean, emo kid's hair. We need to put there.
No, they stuck upright. Yeah,
just flopping around back there. I don't know what this guy's doing. He's got
a snake
in his hand. Looks like he has a Russell's viper in his hand. Well, that's fucking stupid. That's a Russell's viper.
That's why he's wearing such an armored glove.
I just don't trust gloves. Like for that, I'm just not.
So you're the glove guy.
I am. I trust them for my sand boas. I don't care how much you tell me that they're going to save me against a rattlesnake. I'm not putting a fucking glove on and picking up a rattlesnake. It's just.
Well, I think those are like those hex armor gloves.
Yeah. Sometimes shit happens, and that shit ain't happening to me.
You didn't pull up the picture I put on there of which Drake's Tokay.
I didn't see it.
Named after Travis.
Yeah, it's in there. I saw it.
I didn't go past it.
He posted,
maybe it was farther back.
Right when
we were starting on. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He's actually been doing really well with it. He handles them. It just chills with him now.
Oh. That's because more things have been added since we started. Okay. My bad. Hold on. I'll pull it up. Before we go. So there is your son's Tokay gecko named after Travis.
Yep. That's your namesake, Travis. He's
Yep.
getting some size on him.
He is.
God. Angry ass lizards.
Like I said, this one's doing really well. So I'm pleased with that.
And then this is cool. Friend in Costa Rica took this picture of, let's see, the coral snake being eaten by, let's see, a tropical rat snake. So that's cool. Like that thing is bleeding. If you look at that picture, there's blood coming out of the snake's mouth. So it has crushed this thing, and that coral snake is bleeding. That is crazy. So, anyways, we are towards the end. So if anybody stuck with us, thanks. It was our Pint-Sized Reptile Podcast. We didn't talk about a lot of Pint-Sized reptiles. We talked
about the rubber boas for a minute.
That's true.
I might get viper boas this year. So
see, we gotta do some episodes. But you know what we need to do? We need to do rubber boas. I need to get the Zirkles back on, and we need to do a Pint-Sized Reptile Podcast with them.
That'd be cool.
And do rubber boas. Because we did rubber boas before, but I think it was just us, right? We didn't bring a rubber boa person in.
That was the first episode, yeah.
Yeah. We need to bring the Zirkles back and do another one. So maybe we'll find some time. We can do it. If anybody wants to go listen, I think there's like 8 episodes that we did.
That sounds right. 7 or 8.
The Monk is the best one. Go find that one.
The Monk is absolutely the best one.
The Monk is the best
That's
episode. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go find Pint-Sized Reptile Podcast and look for the Monk episode. It's like episode 3 or 4.
3.
The cursing monk.
The cursing monk. That was a great one. But we'll try and do some more. It's next week is episode 200 for this.
That's awesome.
Well, it's funny. I saw another podcast that they're on YouTube. I saw them post about an upcoming show. It was like number 400 and something. But then I realized that they do like 1 trillion of their podcasts like a week. So like, I don't know how long he's been doing his podcast. And don't get me wrong, he's got a lot of followers, even though he's annoying as fuck. But it's all ball python bros, and we got a ton. This is 200 episodes once a week for 4 years. This is a pain in the butt. I'm not gonna lie. It's worth it. I enjoy it, but God. I think back 200 episodes, but I am excited about the coming up episodes. Like I said, I've got that guy that did the article on the teeth, so I'm excited about that one. I've got a couple other good ones coming up.
You've had some great guests over these 200 too,
dude. So in recent the Zirkles we got coming on was an awesome one. I really enjoyed that one, and like I say, I go way back. The Kathy Love one I did was one of my favorites because
that was good.
I got Kathy Love on, and I love Kathy Love.
The All Doctors one, I really liked that one. I
enjoyed the All Doctors one. I mean, Travis.
I think I had to stop. I had to go upstairs, and so I did. So, but then I went back and re-listened to the whole thing, and that was a really good one.
I still got to put out last week's episode because I have forgotten. It's just me and Katie hanging out. But I still got to put that out, and then I'll put this one out, and then next week we're gonna have so our goal next week is to have guests on every 15 minutes. And for some of those guests, that's gonna be hard because they don't shut up. When I say some of them, I mean Ryan McVeigh, and Sean Gray. Those are going to be the 2 that are going to get the wrap it up music. That's what I need to do. I need to find some wrap it up music and put it on the board and just start playing wrap it up music like they do at the Oscars when we get towards the end of their 15 minutes. And then just yank them off stage. My dad said the Cursing Monk episode was freaking awesome. That was, like I said, that was a great one. That was a good one.
Lincoln popped in here. He popped in on that one too, I think.
So if people want to get a hold of either one of y'all, and if Jason want to talk to you about Russian sand boas, which y'all should definitely get black Russian sand boas once he has them all going and eating, or rainbow boas, you should definitely get rainbow boas from Jason. Or if you want to talk about weird ass snakes with weird ass teeth from Travis, just do that. But Jason, if they want to get a hold of you, how can I get a hold of you?
Topline Constrictors on Facebook or toplineconstrictors@gmail.com.
And Travis?
I'm Travis Wyman on Facebook. I'm Snakes and Bakes on Instagram.
And
James already made fun of me for a good 20 odd minutes about my business name and my shitty logo. So
we're gonna get that logo.
You already know how to find me on Morph Market.
Jeff, we are gonna get that logo. That is, God, Travis. Like we always talk shit about people when you go to reptile shows and their logos and their setups, and then
I don't go to
Travis's
shows,
logo.
so
I know.
Problem
but I
solved.
pull Travis's logo. I'm like, some people are like trying way too hard, and you're like, guys, you need to edit your picture back. And then Travis is like, Travis, you need to try.
See, I'm glad I didn't show mine because James was pretty brutal.
I breed
yours
snakes
is fine
for my own self. I don't breed snakes to sell them, so I'm not.
But you do sell them.
Worried about.
You do sell them.
I do.
And Travis, enough people know you. You need to have a fitting logo for yourself, other than what looks like you did with clip art.
He's like, I did do it with clip art.
No. I'll make it so much worse since we're just piling on me. I did that in PowerPoint.
Oh, nice.
Jesus Christ! I was about to say paint. just in paint.
I don't even think I told you, but I did that in Word. The pint size. I mean, I hand drew the glass and stuff, but
the pint size one. I love the pint size one.
Put it all together in Word.
Jeff said Travis has done it the right way. Logo once you're established and ready for more. But he doesn't have a logo and he's been established for a while. I'm not calling what you have a logo. I refuse. So Jeff's gonna help you out because Jeff has done our Reptile Gumbo podcast. And I will say that I've gotten a lot of positive stuff about, and if anybody's watching, it's in the upper right corner right now, but a lot of positive stuff about our Reptile Gumbo podcast logo that we have now from Jeff.
That one came out great.
I love that one. Don't get me wrong. I love the old one. It's great art, but this is a great logo.
Yeah.
So Jeff is awesome. Anyways, I'm out. We'll be back next week with our 200th episode. We're going to be in Conroe this weekend, trying to do some interviews. If anybody's listening is in Conroe, come by, say hi to us, maybe hop on the podcast. You can say hi to us there. Don't forget to go to our Facebook page and comment your favorite reptile gift that you've gotten on that post that we have at the top, and you can win a blanket. Jeff said Jason hit him up also, so he can help you out as well. I think that's it. We'll see everybody next week. Thank you guys for coming on. Stay around. Everybody else, have a good week. Goodbye.